and welcome to RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay. This week I won't be coughing as much because my chest infection is cleared. I've also dressed for the occasion because the theme is a bit red today. Let's just say like that. My guest today is BigButtGeek, if I can pronounce it correctly, and I'll just bring him in.
Hello.
Hello. Let me just adjust my camera a little bit here. There we go.
There we go. Oh God.
You're perfectly in center. That's perfect. How are you?
Good. You look far more dressed for this than I am. To be fair, I am wearing one of my filthy designs.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah, it's horrible.
Link in bio for merch.
Please do. Oh,
absolutely. Dear. Absolutely.
Yeah, red and black just isn't me, unfortunately.
Oh, red has always been my favorite color.
I don't have the complexion for it at all. So good.
I don't know if I have the complexion, but trust me, if you ask me until I was fucking born, red has always been my favorite color, which is appropriate. I'm not that I wouldn't have that discussion with my mother, or I think I actually have in a very drunken stoop once, but she doesn't want to talk about that. But yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Should we just jump into it?
Like, I'm happy for your success, but I don't want to know.
No, God, no. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the reaction, and that's an appropriate reaction from a parent to have.
Yeah. That's fine.
We'll start with the 4 standard questions, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes.
Yep.
What do you prefer? I call you names, pronouns, and title.
Oh God. He, him, they, she. It's all fine by me. Most people just call me BBG just because it's so fucking long. The name.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If I had to start over again, I'd probably just pick something a little bit more condensed. But here we are. It's too late. I have a logo. There's no going back now.
I have a podcast called RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay. Yes, I know about long names.
But yeah, work on the brand.
Yes, it's a brand. Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, BigButtGeek. I'm an artist, illustrator, and podcaster. And the predominant theme of all of that is fisting. So I started sort of this journey as an artist and illustrator. I've always been artistic and creative, but was very much lapsed in my 20s, and I sort of came back to it a couple of years ago, and I just sort of had this brainwave. I just thought, like, well, why don't I just draw what you know? And I was getting more and more into the fisting scene at the time. I just thought, well, just draw that. That's what you know about. And it was at a time where I was lapsed with my artwork, so I kind of had to learn to draw all over again. I decided to work digitally, so that was another thing to kind of teach myself as well. So it was all a bit rough and crude. But what sort of seemed to come through was my sort of color choices and sort of the joy in what was being created. So that seemed to have struck a chord with people, and it just sort of snowballed really to where people pay me now to do this. And then the podcast came about last year with my good friend Jazzmatazz. So sort of along the same lines as my artwork, sort of taking something a kink that perhaps people have. I've certainly found sort of a negative connotation of, or they have a lot of preconceived ideas about, that it's painful, it's kind of gross, it's invasive. It can be those things, but also it's joyous and silly and ridiculous, and involves a huge amount of connection. So always wanted to sort of depict that, and then the podcast was an attempt to kind of shed some light on this kink and make it seem not so scary. I think one of my biggest achievements with it is that some of my most vanilla straight girlfriends listen to it and listen to it happily. And, you know, they're not interested in this kink or any kink in particular, but they feel more educated and well-rounded as a result of listening to it. And they kind of go, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. This sounds fun. I'm not going to do it, but it sounds fun. I'm like, good. That's
You made it engaging and approachable in a way, as a subject.
I think, yeah. It's the success of it has sort of blown both of us away. We thought it was going to be this thing that just 30 people are going to listen to. And we recorded it on his sofa in Berlin. When we just did 8 episodes, we thought, let's not commit to something silly, and so just 8 episodes, and we'll see how it goes. And it just kept spiraling. So when we finished, we had 10,000 plays, and we had another 15,000 on top, just while we were off doing other things. And we've come back. So series 2, halfway through that at the moment, and that's just come back with a bang. And what's really lovely is to kind of have young people who kind of inspired listening to it. Hopefully we're giving them some sort of sound advice as well, not just kind of technique and things, but just about community and etiquette and what to do when things go wrong. But also people much older and more experienced in the scene really enjoy it as well, because this is how they've always perceived this kink, and finally it seems a medium is kind of depicting it in the way that they always felt it was. So it's nice to have that approval kind of across it, really.
Absolutely.
So what was the other questions?
Yes, the third question is completely sober, clear-headed, or social drinker?
I guess I'd have to go social drinker, but it is very rare these days. I guess I'll be having a drink tonight, go out, but I'll
It is Halloween after all, I guess.
I hate Halloween, but there's some fun tickets or something.
But most gays harness a bit of rubber, a little bit of blood on the face, then you're ready to go, and everyone thinks you spend $1,000 on it.
Yeah, I am gonna wear some rubber tonight, because I don't do gore, I don't do blood. I hate it. So I just thought, okay, I've not worn the rubber in like 2 years. Fuck it, let's do it. So I'm just gonna dress as a fist pig tonight. That's fine. There we go.
That's a costume.
I'll find my people. They'll come to me, and
they'll levitate towards you. Yes.
Yeah.
And to end with, what is clear play to you, and why is it important?
So clear play to me is playing the kink play that I enjoy, which is predominantly fisting. So not under the influence of any drugs, even cannabis really, and not alcohol either. It's important to me because I just think I really value the connection that you get with people during it, and I'm so aware that, I mean, when everything's safe and you know what you're doing, it's fabulous. But if you're not present in the moment, it is something where you can very seriously damage yourself, or someone damage you. And it's the kind of thing I want to be present for myself for. So that's why it's very important to me. And yes, I've been tempted over the years, but maybe not tempted, but curious over the years. And then I just hear horror stories, and I just think, I'm good. This is good as it is, and it's fabulous as it is. So yeah.
When it comes to fisting and drug taking, can be a very dangerous cocktail to put together, because you are dealing with something that's very sensitive, can easily be damaged if you're not doing it right. And I know of people who now have colostomy bags because they were on crystal and they just went nuts. And it's quite eye-opening. I was always a top fister. I'm still a top fister. I've taken fists, but I've never enjoyed it. This one won't allow me to enjoy it. That's the problem sometimes.
That's very common, and that's fine. Like we don't all have to be fist pigs, honestly.
No, but don't get me wrong. There's a part of me that really wants to, because it's funny. I was listening to a couple of your episodes, and you talk about this as well on your podcast about sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes you're just not meant to be a bottom when it comes to fisting and so on. But to be honest, listening to some of the stuff you talk about, it's almost sparked my curiosity again. Maybe I'll give it a go again, because I've never tried to do fisting clear-headed.
Really?
No. I was always on something when I'd taken fists, and it was more, for me, it was more a stamp of like, I've done it now. We can move on to the next thing. kind of thing.
Yeah.
The few times I did it. And the one horrible time I did it, the guy who was doing it got impatient and forced it. So that, yeah. That's one of the reasons don't do fisting when you're on drugs, because people do weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's jump out of the deep end of the conversation, with stuff like that.
It's a shame. I mean that absolutely exists, and I know people have had horrible accidents, or just very unpleasant experiences. You know, all the way to hurting themselves, all the way to, you know, we met, but you know, he was high, we were both high, and I just don't really know what happened, and you know, it's you know, they just felt like, what was this experience as well? So it's just something that just doesn't really appeal to me. But having said that, I will not judge you for doing it.
No,
as long as you play safely.
That is the main thing, and anything I say is purely my experience, and it's not out. If people want to dabble and they want to do these type of things, this is just what's happened to me. It might not happen to you. So that's very important. I'm not out to judge anything. And to be honest, I say that on several occasions, if I could still do drugs, I probably would, but I can't because I go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I should say I am, you know, as well as a social drinker, I guess I'd have to class myself as a social drug taker. I went about 3 years without doing anything. Of course, the year of that was pandemic. Go figure. Yeah. And I'm certainly not doing things in my own home, and it's, you know, that's just not who I am. So, and it wasn't until recently there's this you probably know the one. There was sort of this day festival in September here in London, very queer. Friends were like, "Well, we're gonna go. We're gonna do this. Do you want some of this?" I thought, why not? It's been forever, and it was a lovely experience. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't. It was one of those drugs where it just, you're just happy and loving everyone, and tell everyone around me how much I love them, and blah blah blah. And then, you get to the natural progression of coming down, and then you have that kind of fork in the road. I think it's like, do you keep going and you try to build yourself up? And of course, we all know you never do.
Nope.
Yeah. You never get back to where you were, or you just go, I'm gonna feel like death for a few hours, and I just need to ride this out. And I'm old enough and ugly enough to kind of go, I'm just gonna ride this out, and it's fine, and I'll go to bed soon.
Oh, I wish I had that function.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually got spoiler. And we have got a sort of a chemsex sobriety episode coming up for this season of the podcast, and in it, and it's, we have some very different viewpoints, and I realize more and more how I am in the minority of people who can just do it once in a while, and that's it. And so I do kind of appreciate my privilege with that. I have plenty of other vices and issues and everything else, but I guess I am fortunate that drugs isn't one of them. And I mean, I met a very well-known fister a few days ago, and we obviously, this conversation came up, and he was sort of saying, you're just not tempted to do it for pleasure? Like, no. And it's just like, I wish I had that. Yeah, I've tried to think back, like, where it happened, and I think I can remember when I was 21. So I was an art student in Brighton, so just partying lots, as you can imagine, in my early 20s. Lots of house parties and lots of drugs. And it got to the point where I think we were going out every weekend, getting high. And then I think it came to the end of term, end of year, and I was broke, as most students are. And there was a big party happening that was like, "Oh, you coming?" And I was like, I can't go, I'm broke. So I can't buy any drugs. So I can't go to the party. I can't perform at the party. I can't talk to people. I can't be interesting without this. So I'm just gonna stay home. And then I just had this sort of epiphany at 21, like, oh, this is where it starts. This crutch to lift, and I thought, oh God, some people never realize this. They think like, oh, I need this to make me interesting. I need this to make me.
For most people, it just sneaks up on you. Trust me, it snuck up on me quite slowly and surely, but it did. So it's a funny one. Good on you for having that epiphany, because not a lot of 21-year-olds would have that epiphany.
Yeah, it's one of the few things I was quite insightful on. So and then I always just remember that feeling, and then other times, you know, I always just would cling on to that memory of like, but when you come down, how awful you feel.
Wait.
You know, like just remember that. Yes, you'll have fun. And as I said, I'll only do it.
It's
You know,
it's fun.
at parties, so that's the only time I enjoy it. For me, sex does not go into the equation. It's just
It's fun on borrowed time, and if you start calculating how much time it actually is, it's not worth it in most cases.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's one of the things I've now experienced, and I also work for a charity called Controlling Chemsex, where I deal with people, and I wrote their tips section. I wrote about fetish and how to deal with fetish after drugs, because a lot of people, you either find fetish in drug taking, or you find it before and then you find drugs, and that's the kind of the difference. And one thing I also experience is now a lot of people coming out on the other side of drug taking, but they're like, how am I ever going to do fisting again? Because they're just so petrified, or they did fisting only on drugs, a little bit like me, or they had fisting before, but then they've gotten so dependent on that to relax. Is that something you've experienced from talking to other people, that concern?
Yeah, it kind of breaks my heart a little, particularly when I speak to kind of younger guys, and obviously the question of chems comes up, and they say, I can only do this if I'm high.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, that's not true. I mean, as you say, it's all in here. It really is. And yeah, I don't really know where people kind of lose their way with it. As I say, I think they discover fisting while being high, and they connect the two things together as this kind of outer body mind body experience. But yeah, there are still quite a few guys that can only perform while high. Unfortunately, that then cuts me off from them completely, because it's just I've tried to engage, you know, to have sessions with people that are high and not to judge, but unfortunately I'd say 95% it's just not been my thing. They're not connected. It's all about, you know, a friend described it really, really well to me, particularly kind of, you know, the weekend long parties and things where, and I've had this session where they go, oh, we partied for like 48 hours and we did this and we did that, and this guy fisted me, and this guy double fisted me, and this guy with a huge dick, and they did this and they did that. You go, okay, yeah. So people who kind of, you know, do the chemsex parties, you know, they kind of go, oh, I did this, I took that, I did that, I hit this girl, I took something this big, blah blah blah. But they can never verbalize like how it felt.
Yeah.
There's this huge disconnect between the two, which is what I found. So like, yeah, like that.
It's as you say, it's purely up here, and I think with most fetishes, especially if I have a boy over who likes me beating his ass, I can make him take more if I can get him to keep up in here.
Yeah.
Not so much the physical, it's more the mind that's important as well.
Yeah.
And you need to make them feel safe.
Yeah, I think as well, people don't want, I mean, this is something that we talked about a lot on the podcast as well, is that a lot of people's introduction to this kink specifically is through videos online. Twitter is obviously a huge haven for kinksters and fisting. There's a huge like Twitter fisting community, which is glorious and wonderful, and I've made fantastic friends, and that's how I met my podcast partner through it. And honestly, it's probably where I get most of my hookups from these days. Grindr, Scruff, Twitter, that's where it's at. But what was I going to say? I've completely lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, that was it. So people kind of see these little like 2-minute or less clips on Twitter, and it will generally be the guy that can take the most, they can get punched the hardest, take it the deepest, and that's the bar, and that's their goal, and that's where they need to be. And if they're not hitting that, then they're a failure.
Mm.
They kind of look to these shortcuts to get there. And of course, chems is a really easy one to do that. So
it makes everything relax and it makes it easy, and you don't have to, your brain switches off. Where, like, someone like me, I am always in my head. I suffer with anxiety. So letting go is a really fucking big issue for me in every aspect of my life, let alone trusting someone to put something up my butt. If you give me a toy on my own, I can take that toy quite happily because I'm in control. But giving that control over to someone else, that's a whole other set of rules for me.
Yeah. But it's funny though how people can't allow someone else to have that control. So they hand that control over to a substance.
Yeah.
That do. So it's funny, you're just kind of transferring it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like we now have people. It's like, I don't want a vaccine, but you were sniffing coke in a bathroom stall last weekend. Calm the fuck down. You trust that in your body. You can't trust someone else.
Yeah, let's not go down this road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know some very prevalent people who are hard anti-vaxxers. I'm like, I literally know you went on like a coke binge like not too long ago.
Yeah.
So.
So, when did you start on like your fisting journey? Like when because the first time I was introduced to fisting was by accident, to be honest. I was playing with one of my regular fuck buddies around when I was 21, 22, and I was playing with his ass, and then my hand disappeared, and I was very shocked because I did not know the ass could do that.
Well, I knew it was possible, but it's like it was not something I was into at all. I was always into. I mean, trash really. You know, it was just sort of a size queen bottom, really, like a lot of guys. And I slowly sort of, you know, was getting better at taking larger toys. And then I was chatting with some guy online. This is around 2016, so it's not that long ago, really. And we agreed on a hookup. I think he was quite well endowed. So like, great, that'll be fun. And then he said he was sort of versed and he liked ass play. It was, I mean, I can't remember how the conversation went, but I don't remember fisting really being on the agenda at all. So as he was on his way over to mine, and I just thought, well, I better just confirm, because he was a little bit like, I didn't really get a sort of clear answer out of him as to what he wanted to do this session. I thought he was cute and interesting and hung, so that was great. And then he was just like, oh, lol, I thought maybe you could double fist me, haha. And I thought, that's so funny. Comes over, huge backpack, out come the towels, the puppy pads, the gloves, the lube. I thought, what's happening?
He means business.
Yeah, and I hadn't even really engaged with fisting porn. I loved kind of porn where people kind of taking huge dildos, so kind of like extreme penetration. But fisting, I was like, because I just had no concept of how that felt. So I was like, I don't associate that with pleasure. It's just parts going into other people's body. It just didn't look like horror porn or something to me. So it wasn't something he even had the visual really in my head. So he just like, you know, put the gloves on me, put the lube on, like, right. You know, his legs went in the air, like, right, in you go. I was like, and I still don't really know what went through my head at the time. I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. I was just too polite to say anything. In they went, and as I've discovered, as is well known, I have very small hands. Don't look so small though. But yeah, so one went in, and then the other one quickly followed. And he was having the time of his life. For me, that's been a lifelong bottom. To suddenly give so much pleasure. Somebody was just like, what the hell? Like my mind just exploded in that moment. And then at the time where I was living, I had these mirrored wardrobes. So I was so focused on what I was doing, which obviously is important. So like, oh God, I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to do this. And I was listening to all the instructions. And then I just caught sight of myself in the mirror. And I thought, this looks insane. I mean, it's brilliant, but it's fucking insane. His legs akimbo, I'm like splunking in there. And it just blew my mind. I was thinking about it, you know, and I went into work. I was like, I need to tell you what I did last night. They were like, what the fuck Yeah. And then, then I just started, I think it was only after that I made a recon profile, and it was all very timid, and I was still petrified of it as a bottom. But it took probably from that moment, good 2.5, 3 years to get really comfortable as a bottom. And that only happened when I started dating someone who was a very proficient fister. And it took some time, but it went from, I was able to take a fist. But it was just sort of like, it's in, take it out, please.
Yeah. That sounds like me.
That level for
that sounds like me.
It was like, oh, you like this, like, I can technically do it, yes, but it's not. We're not punching away here.
We're not quite there yet.
No. So it was only with him. It went from like to like then sort of the pleasure of it. We got to that level. So that only really happened in early 2019, and then it's blossomed. It's blossomed from there.
It's blossomed from doing the action and now into beautiful artwork.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, it's in my bathroom, so
yes, that was.
I have one of your pieces in my bathroom, which I almost terrified myself on holidays, like, because I asked my landlord to come in and sort out something in the bathroom, and I hadn't taken it down. Not down.
It's not that.
He already knows I'm a lever gay. It's fine and so on. But I'm just like, there is kind of maybe a boundary that would shock a plumber if he walked in and the first thing he sees is a poster of someone squirting stuff out of a bum on some other guy. That might just scare him a little bit. I'm not sure.
I think the straights have to learn, and they have to learn one way or another.
Absolutely. I'm sure he have something to tell his girlfriend when he came home.
Exactly.
They didn't enter my flat whilst I was away anyway, so yeah. But still, it's that one piece of art I might take down if I have family members over.
No, it's art, darling. No.
It's art. It's art. It's not real. It never happens in reality.
I mean, you can find the video it's based on. It's very good. It's very good.
But you talk about small hands. I am also equipped with small hands that claps very, very well.
Small hands are the fisting equivalent of having a huge dick. It really is. It's
well. When people ask for my hand size, they just say small or double. It depends on you. What you want, because these are easy to do with double. Yeah. Because they're small already. So.
Oh, I know. I have deflowered many a hole and given quite a few guys their first double as well, which is a lovely experience to give to somebody. Especially when you weren't going into the session with a goal. It just sort of naturally happens because I'm good enough to go, oh no, there's room here for it. So yeah, it's a good experience to have. I had one trip in Berlin. There's this lovely Irish guy that I met with. We didn't have time to play, but we just went for a cocktail. Very sweet guy. And then I just sort of put my hands on the table, and honestly, it was like I just flopped out some 12-inch dick on the table. It was just like he was just obsessed. It's like, oh my god, these are so tiny. It's like, what glove size? Like, well, actually, an extra small is the perfect fit for me. So, I can wear a small, but then it's really baggy around the wrist. But an extra small, that is skin tight on me. I'd be like, oh, that's amazing. So yeah.
I posted a picture in Gran Canaria when I was on holiday of my hand like this with this on, and I got a lot of interaction on that, which is quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's a handy skill to have.
It's very handy. Yes. Nice little pun there. So with the artwork, how did that get started? You say draw what you know, and
yeah.
What pushed you towards that instead, just to re-educate yourself on that?
So at the time, I mean, I've been working in around that time and up until yesterday, I've sort of worked intermittently in sort of sex and fetish shops. So I mean, I was never a prude, but obviously that just kind of just makes you even more comfortable.
Listen to a podcast. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So when I started working at one particular shop in Soho here in London, there was an illustrator working there who's very famous and has a huge Instagram following. He's really talented. And we were selling his merchandise there as well. So he worked there a few days a week, and had t-shirts, mugs.
I might have one of his mugs.
Yeah, It's fantastic and a great. One of the wittiest people I've ever met. And I got talking to him about it, and he's just one of these people. He knew what he enjoyed drawing, and he just stuck with it, and stuck with the same thing, from the age of like 15 to date. And I remember that thing when I was at school. I just drew what I loved. But then where we differed was that I carried it on academically, where it doesn't matter what you want to draw. It's like what I studied illustration. It's like, no, it's like what the client wants. You have to be versatile. You have to do this. And then I went and did my degree in theatre and visual arts, which was a fantastic experience. But then again, it was just so many different influences and trying different things and everything. You had to have a reason and a purpose to do everything. What are your references? Who are you inspiring? Who is an artist? And at the age of 20 to 22, I had no fucking idea. So I just bogged down for years, like, but what do you want to say as an artist? And I just thought, I don't know what I want to do. So it just became this big scary thing of like, I don't know what I want to say as an artist. So therefore I have no value. So I just stopped completely. So it wasn't until 10 years later, then I started talking to this guy who had this same thing. He was always drawing and painting, and he just didn't listen to the voices. He just stuck with what he wanted to do, and then 10 years on has a successful business and following from it. I thought, well, that's what I need to do, not do the same content, but just think like, what do I want to do? I just thought, fuck it, fisting. I think I was literally scrolling Twitter at the time and looking at these glorious bumholes. And there's one very famous fister in the US called Punch93. If every fister knows who that is. His videos are quite legendary, and I thought, fuck it, let's draw him. And it was a very crude drawing, but it was colourful. It was fun. And I thought, fuck it, I'll post it to Twitter. I had a modest, I think, 250 followers, something like that. And I tagged him in it. So I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be, it's either just going to ignore it, or he's going to send me a DM like, could you take that down? This is terrible. He didn't. He commented, said, I love it. Thank you so much. Feel free to draw me whenever you want. And I kept going. And I did a few more of him, I did more of other people. And I just thought, I'm just not going to listen to what anyone wants me to do. I'm just going to do what I want to do. I knew I wanted everything to be colourful and fun. There's so many great fetish artists, photographers that I look up to, but it's always a bit dark, a bit sinister, black and white, and I love that aesthetic and I adore it. But I thought, I just want it to just be an explosion of colour and sort of joy, and that's always so I always say, and funny enough, so the illustrator that I work with at the sex shop, his sort of brand very much is kind of taking the innocent, Disney characters and your beloved childhood things, and then corrupting them, making them sniff uppers and put them in sexy gear, which is fabulous. I almost work exactly the opposite way. I take the already corrupted, the dirty thing, the people with busted assholes and people getting double bunched, and kind of create this almost childlike aesthetic to it, with bubbles and hearts and circles with flowers and things like that. So it kind of works the other way around, and I think through that people kind of see this kink and fetish very differently. They go, oh, this is really not, oh, okay, I see it, someone with a rosebud. Isn't this nice?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty.
It's pretty, yeah. And then it's actually, and generally it has, more, in less kinky circles, it has started a dialogue. Like, I am that person at a dinner party. It's like, so this is Bart, and he does, and he does fisting artwork, and people are like, interesting, tell me more. And it's like, and then the next 2 hours is sucked up by me talking about this and kink and what I've done and what I can't do and this and that. So, which has been fabulous. It's really kind of opened people's minds up to it. But yeah, I mean, the artwork was going pretty well, and then pandemic hit. And I definitely used that lockdown time well. I looked at what I was doing before pandemic and what I was doing after. Well, still kind of in it. I think, okay, I was drawing every day in that. Yeah. So I was never one of these people like, oh, I've just watched everything on Netflix and I've completed Netflix. I just let myself go. I was like, I was working. I thought I'm gonna use, because all I ever craved was just time to do this and get better and do this piece I wanted to draw that person that I look up to. And then, yeah, and then it just kept spiraling, and then more people had, and then other people had the time as well to go, hi, I would like to pay you for your work, which was great. And then very fortunate that some brands approached me. So I've worked with Top Toys, so their t-shirt design, which you can still get. It's like a stack of toys covered in lube. So I did that for them. Yeah, I've got a collaboration with Lube as well. So so famous fisters that love the brand, so we've illustrated them. They're in sticker form, so you can find them in the bottles as well. So it's at random. It's like top trump cards. You don't know which one you're going to get. Like collect them all. So we've done that as well. And
I would like to see the skill list on those top trump cards. It's like one has a bigger prolapse, one can do a better rosebud, one can take a longer tour.
Special skill can go elbow deep. Yeah, that's.
Oh my god, I would play that game. That would be so fun.
Yeah, there's an idea in that. Yeah,
note that down. Trademark it now. Now, yeah.
Yeah, we did that, and then I'd say end of last year, then HungerFF, sort of arguably the biggest fisting porn star in the world. So he.
I might have seen his stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, even people that don't really know fisting or anything, they're just like, have you seen this guy online who's just got like a giant pro? I'm like, yes, I know. Yes, we're friends. Yeah.
Have you seen him? Yes.
Yeah. It's one of these sort of viral things. It's I think he's been on a few sort of mainstream podcasts. And
it is quite something, I will say. So I can understand someone who hasn't seen fisting before could get a little bit shocked. Even I, probably the first time I saw it, was a bit shocked.
Yes. I mean, even for me, so it's like, whoa. But you have to realize, and is that he represents the 0.00 something. And by his own admission, he is not representative of the entire fisting community. He is
he's unique,
very unique, and a very lovely man. Yes, but yeah, so he approached me to do the artwork for his website as well. So that was a really fun thing. So yeah, so lots of joyous things have come out of the artwork, and now the podcast, which I think it just connected me to a whole other range of people.
See, with the podcast, I've listened to a couple of episodes now, and I love the tone of it because it doesn't take itself very serious. You just make everything very approachable, and understandable. Even as much as I say I'm a fister, there's definitely things I didn't know. Maybe it's because I'm not purely a fister. I do a lot of other things. I'm very much a gearhead. Like you say, I dressed up for this. So I'm into a wide variety of things. So my main focus has never really been fisting, but fisting is definitely something I love. Yeah. So maybe there's definitely room for learning more. It also has to be said, as I've said previously, with fisting and the drug taking. So if you count the last 4 years of being sober, fisting has not been my priority, mainly because either people can't do it without drugs, or they also heavily dependent on using pubbers, which for me, I don't mind people using pubbers, but I don't want their nose down the bottle the whole fucking time they're with me. Yeah.
Puppers is always a grey area, and I know people who are completely clean and sober, and they're still like, but I do it, is it okay? And I don't think there's really a definitive yes or no on it.
But my personal experience, and if someone says they're a little bit in two minds about it, it's like, it's not for me to judge, it's more what your boundaries are. For me, I wouldn't do it, but I hated puppers already. So it was really not a no-brainer for me to stop using them. Would it feel weird if I did them? Yes, because for me, that's a high, even if it is a very, very temporary high. So it would feel very weird for my sobriety to do it. But that is my personal experience. It might be not someone else's. But what is your view on puppers and when it comes to fisting?
See, I'm a little bit of a show off. So I quite like the whole thing of like, oh, I'm not even taking the poppers, and oh, your hand just slipped right in. I quite like that, or someone goes, you've not even taken the poppers yet, and it's just like, oh, I guess I just don't need them. That's me. I've enjoyed it. I did have a play session earlier today, and I was huffing on them then, but I was just so bloody sore from other activities. So it was like, I think I'm just gonna need to take the edge off of this.
You needed to take the edge off, and that's
yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, it was a rough clean out. So I was just like, just bear with me, please. I came prepared with it. I have tried hooking them up to the gas mask. That was too intense for me, and that did feel just kind of delving into a slightly darker territory, and that just really sort of scared me off. And I can feel it really overwhelming my senses. And I was like, how people do this on the regular? This feels dangerous. And I know people where they've gone into shock from it and various other elements. So it's definitely not something to do on the regular. But did that once. I was like, absolutely not. But again, working in sex shops as well, I kind of, and obviously poppers is the main thing people are coming in for. And I have seen several people come in who are going blind because they've done them so much. And that's quite scary. And then of course you ask, like, but so why are you buying them? Like, oh, well, I just need them to get off. You're like, oh.
Well,
okay.
Either poppers can also become an addiction. That's the thing.
Really?
People you don't necessarily get a physical dependency of poppers. It also can be dangerous and excessive use.
Yeah, it's not.
Can become a psychological dependency.
Yeah,
which is almost worse to kick than a physical one. Because a physical one, you can kind of get out of the system in a couple of days. If some of them, depending on what the drug is, you can have the medical assistance. But with poppers, it's a psychological thing. So all of a sudden, you can't wank, you can't be fucked, you can't fuck someone without huffing on them, and that can be tricky.
Yeah, I've had sessions. I mean, even in just vanilla play, where people just huffing and huffing and huffing, and I was like, you're not here with me at all. You're so fixated on this bottle and what that's doing, and again, it's just another distraction. It's just taking you somewhere else. You're not here in the room with me. It just turns me off completely. So
it's as you say, it's a gray area, because when we talk addiction, no one really thinks about poppers as being a thing, because it's so normalized and it's legal, and as I said, it's not a physical dependency, but it can be a psychological one. That can be really, really difficult. And it's never a good look when you have the crusty nose thing, which I see quite often.
Well, I would do that more when I was like in my early 20s and doing poppers in like gay clubs. That's more, because someone like bash into you, like spill the bottle all over you. That's when I get the crusty nose. Yeah, I'm far more controlled in a fisting scenario. I'm just like, hold everything, just stop.
So talking about the art and talking about the podcast, what are some of the really positive things, positive interactions you've had with people after starting all this? Because it is a bit of a tour de force of things.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, when we started it, I thought it would just be like a few of our friends would listen to it. Obviously, we between the two of it. I mean, my partner Jazz has a huge following on Twitter. And I knew the people that were already like team us or sort of fans of us would listen to it and go, oh, that was great, that was fun. I really didn't expect people. We had a message quite early on from this young guy in the middle of nowhere in Mexico who listened to it, who is clearly into this kink. I mean, it's bad enough being gay and in a small rural area, because there's just nobody to connect with, nobody to fuck with. So then you add a very specific kink on top of it that just cuts you off from pretty much any play. So he just had nobody talked about it, but he said through listening to us, he just felt like he had a couple of friends finally, sort of, to talk about with and learn about it. So through it, he felt like he was a part of this community, which is really heartwarming. And we've had so many messages like that. And we've done, there's a couple of episodes this season that we're really proud of, some still to come out. So we had a trans episode as well, and that just shone a light onto, that experience of being a trans man within the kink and fisting community as well. And we had so many lovely messages from that. People go, I learned so much from this, thank you. And I like to think we, particularly as fisters, I think we are far more welcoming, because we tend, on the whole, not to be too focused on genitalia. That's kind of out of the question.
Yeah.
As long as you got a bum, like we can work with this. But as long as you're genital, I don't care what, hole's a hole. So you know, whatever configuration the rest of you is, I don't care. Just look like, can you play in my bum? Can I play in yours? Great. So I like to think that we are sort of more open to trans individuals, and luckily, I think overall we became. That's what sort of came out of that conversation we had with our friend Pocket Jock Dog, who joined us for that episode, talking about his experience.
It's so important to get the trans experience in as well. I literally, last week's episode on my podcast was a trans man, Oscar, that came on, and I talked a bit about his sobriety, and because in the trans community we get a lot of addiction issues, because there's a lot of mental health issues, and all this crap that comes up. So it's important to involve them in the conversation about all sorts of things, and that could be sober, fisting, fetish, because fetish now is like, I think we don't talk enough about it, because there is bound to be a trans man at the lever bar. You just don't know they're there.
Yeah.
And they need to feel welcome and feel like they can be open about it without being judged by the people who are there.
Yeah, definitely. And
there's definitely a problem with that, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the things I'm most proud of with this current series that we're doing is we really invest a lot of time into making sure we gave, obviously we're not going to cover the entire fisting experience in one season, but you know, with this season in particular, I mean, we had in series 1, we had 2 fantastic, you know, we had HungerFF and Axel Abysse, who are just fisting kink legends, and they were gracious enough to talk with us. But we thought, well, this community is not just made up of porn stars, it's made up of ordinary people, it's made up of people you've never heard of. So we've had a real sort of plethora of, we've had some people who are very famous and people you've never heard of, which are just completely silly and stupid. One of my favourite episodes this season is coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's just so stupid. I can't wait for that one to come out, and we've got a fabulous guest for that one who's hilarious. And also we've covered more serious topics. We had a guy who suffers with various heart conditions, physical disabilities, mental health issues, and how he navigates this kink. And you know, we had the trans episode as well. So we've kind of you know, so I feel like we've got a very balanced view of what this community is, and it is made up of people of all shapes and sizes and levels of fame and popularity, big holes and small holes.
Roomy holes, not so roomy holes. Yeah, absolutely.
Someone messaged us, they said, could you just do an episode just on different hole types? As though there's a chart somewhere where it's like, you're more of an A type hole, or a...
And you are definitely a black hole.
Black hole, yeah. Sinkhole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inflatable hole. I don't. Yeah.
see, that's when we talk about holes, and I'll be quite honest on that. I prefer a loose hole, to be honest. When it comes to a hole, I prefer a loose hole. Also, when I'm topping, or if I want to fuck someone, I prefer a loose hole, because I don't have a straight cock. It goes a little bit to the side. So tight hole is a fucking nightmare for me, because I have to do this, and it's really fucking distracting if they're really tight, and then you lose your heart on. So a nice loose hole, great. I can just throw it in. It's great. Yeah,
we're great. Like, we are great for vanilla sex, I will say, us fisters, because you haven't got to worry about like, oh, just easy. You know, we're good to go.
Yeah,
yeah. Especially, I mean, I found as well. I would say with like, if you are, I mean, most fisters, if we do dabble in the vanilla, it's generally you kind of need someone, let's say, quite well endowed, just to kind of get something out of it. I said the side of myself I'm not particularly proud of, but it's fine. I find guys that are especially larger, they go, who are not into fisting at all, but they go, oh great, I haven't got to go through the hour of like, you know, trying to talk you off a ledge and just calming you and getting to relax and all the lube. It's like, oh, we're good to go. Great. So like, yeah, in you go, babe. But I found guys that are just kind of just a bit above average. They're just, you know, big, not huge. They get really freaked out by fisting because they kind of love that thing of like,
Oh yeah.
like, oh, is it too big for you? Oh, you know, like,
oh, it's too big. It hurts
yeah,
me.
they love that. They love
Yeah,
that. And they're kind of, that whole kind of sexual identity is tied to that feeling about, oh, it's too big, daddy. And then, and I met one of the people I work with at Prowler who was very much one of those. He was like, oh, it's disgusting, it's gross. And it's like, you just love this thing of like some guy who's far too young for you, you know, being like, oh, you're too big, oh, it's too much. I'm just like, I'm looking, I didn't say
no. If I can get my hand and my dick in at the same time, perfect.
I know, it's great. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, but they're just like, oh no, you know, they just love being the biggest thing in the room, and it's like, no, there's bigger things out there.
But it's your tone when you're talking about fisting. You're all about the fun of it, and it's you making it less like. I like the darker side of sex. I like BDSM, stuff like that, which is, like you say, in fetish photography is depicted darker because it is slightly darker sex. Where with fisting, it just seems to be two people that connected that's supposed to have a good time. So and it's nice to see that you're kind of demystifying it a little bit. I remember when I started coming on the fetish scene, most of my friends referred to me as Fisting Ralph. And I was just like, well, I'm not really doing that much fisting at that point. So, but because I was into fetish, I definitely was into fisting.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, they don't necessarily go in hand. It is like a lot of fisting guys are not necessarily into fetish gear.
Yeah.
It becomes really messy really quickly anyway.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, it's a bit off tangent, but that's something I've had to navigate. Like I am a fister, definitely. And I'm very happy, certainly now, where I kind of fit into that community and I have a place and a voice and whatever. It's as a kind of a kinkster, as a fetish guy. That's kind of the battle as to where I fit, because gear, I love it on other people, but like on me, it's like it just doesn't fit with me and who I am. So that's, you know, and I don't get off on any type of gear. And I say I'm wearing some rubber tonight, which I don't mind. And so I don't get any kind of sexual kink out of it. So yeah, that's been about a battle for me, is kind of finding my place within kink. Fisting, got that down.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as part of the wider kink community as well. And it's funny as well, like, even within, you know, being surrounded by other kinksters, you know, there is this sort of like almost this looking down. It's like, oh, well, those are the fister, you know. Yeah. God, you know. Can you even close your hole at this point? Like, yes, thank you. It's fine. I can go to the toilet. Yes, it's fine.
Yeah, it is weird that there is this kind of attitude toward what fisting is, which I think is a bit unfair. But then again,
it's all it is. I used to live with this older leather daddy guy, and he was into BDSM and things. And you know, and he knew what I got up to, and he was just, you know, like, you know, my playmate would leave, and he was like, I assume the guts are all over the ceiling now, and it was just like, oh, it's disgusting. I don't judge you on your play. It's just, you know, but ultimately, like with anything, you know, it's if you don't understand it, you just turn to mocking it and putting it down. Yeah, I mean, I've worked at kink.
I remember doing an interview for like subcultures in Denmark. It was on national TV. And the interviewer kind of started the interview by asking me, so you're into fetish, so that means like you ride on bikes and chaps huffing puppers while having a fist in your ass. And that was his impression of what a fetish or fisting person was. And I was like, no, that's... My response was just like, well, some people ride on bikes. That was my response to it.
I have a scooter.
Yeah, great. And it's just this kind of misunderstanding of what it's about. And I would say my impression of people who are into fisting are much more laid back and kind of relaxed, where I think sometimes with fetish people, where it's like lever and protocol and so on, they take themselves a little bit too seriously. I run around in dead cow skin calm the fuck down.
Yeah. Some of the theatre of it does kind of make me chuckle.
Oh, it's drag. This is drag.
Yeah,
absolutely drag. Something you don't on a regular. Well, I wear it on a regular basis, but I don't wear it in my day-to-day life. That's something that's a costume or drag. It's leather drag, and that's perfectly fine. But accept that it is that. Don't get pissy about it.
Yeah, and it's as I say, that's kind of what I like to carry through with everything I'm doing. Is just making it fun and a little bit tongue in cheek.
Well, you call your podcast such fun, and the only thing that pops into my head when you say that is Miranda and her mother. That is the first thing that popped into my head.
We had an original title for the podcast, which I'm not going to say because it's awful. We really struggled with the name, and then there was this completely vanilla friend of mine. I was brainstorming it with him, and he's just very good with puns. And he's as vanilla gets, and he was just sort of like, but he knew enough to kind of, like the 2 F's for everything, fist funk, and he was just like, that's such fun with 2 F's. I was like, oh my god,
there we go.
Let's probably pay him some money for that. But yeah, it was just genius, and that just encapsulated everything. It was a bit tongue in cheek. Fun's in the name. It just represented everything that we are and what we want to do and keep doing. So yeah,
that's amazing. We are actually coming to the end of our time.
Oh no! Anything else?
But at the end, is there anywhere people can get a hold of you?
Yes. So on here, I am BigButtGeek Art. So that's on Instagram and Twitter, where it's all the filth, uncensored filth of various kinds. That's just BigButtGeek, so it's all one word. And I have a Threadless store under the same name if you want to buy some t-shirts and prints from me. And if you're interested in a commission, just DM me on anything, and I'm happy to respond.
And
and the podcast, which is so Such Fun with 2 F's. That's on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. That's everywhere. So that's we're halfway through series 2, and you can listen to series 1 and half of series 2.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend it. It is great fun to listen to you both kind of with on about your experiences. There's definitely no filter, and I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I can't remember a lot of things we did because we don't record it week 2. We record it in like a block.
Yeah.
In advance, so something it's like months of it. So people go, "Oh my god, you said that was so funny." Like I have no idea what I said, and I listen back and you go, "Oh god."
Yeah, you kind of sit back and re-listen to some of your podcast. I probably should listen to some of my episodes. It's like, what did I say?
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, I encourage other people to go back and listen to it.
And any quick advice for someone who's starting out and they want to get going with fisting and it's something that entices them?
Listen to my podcast.
Listen to your podcast.
No.
Well, no, it's a perfect starting point.
Well, I mean, actually, the first 2 episodes are all about starting in fisting, so it's not bad. I think just be open and honest about your experience level. That's where it needs. If you're interested in bottoming, invest in some good toys. Go slow, go easy. Just try not to fast track it. It takes years, honestly. And anyone that's done it overnight, they're either done it through illicit means, or they're just a freak of nature.
Like
some people
natural born fisters.
There's a few minority, like they're just gifted. The third time, like, oh, I just took the whole arm. I'm like, damn you. I've
had that experience in the past. It's like, oh, I've never been fisted before. Then I'm up here. I was just like, what? I
have plenty of stories like that. Bastards, all of them. But yeah. Go slow, just communicate what you need and your experience level. Honestly, I think that's true of most kink play.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
I need to squeeze in some rubber now.
Yay! Post some pictures afterwards.
There'll be something that ends up online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. And that was BigButtGeek art on here. As absolutely hands up for that little interview. It was great to have him on and talk about his experience and so on. Next episode is in 2 weeks. I think I need to recheck that, but you'll get information when the episode is due to go live. And yeah, have a great Halloween weekend. If you are going out to get dressed up, wear a mask, maybe a rubber mask or a leather mask if you want to. But yeah, have a great weekend, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye!